Jack Bob. He's a character, that's for sure. You'd know him if you saw him. He's got that long, scraggly hair that looks like it hasn't seen a comb in years. And that beard, don't even get me started, makes him look like he's been living off the land for a decade. He's always wearing them overalls. You know, the kind with the straps? One time I swear I saw a family of squirrels moving into his back pocket. And the smell? Let's just say he carries the aroma of cheap beer and campfire wherever he goes. Now, Bob's got this itch, see? An itch to see the good old US of A. And he figures, why not do it in style, or at least Jack Bob style. So he packs his trusty toothbrush, or what I imagine passes for a toothbrush, throws some beef jerky and a six-pack into his beat-up pickup truck and sets off on his grand adventure. First stop, Texas. Land of cowboys, barbecue, and, well, more cowboys. Bob, he's got this crazy idea that he can be a rodeo clown. You know, the guys that distract the bulls? Yeah, that's what he wants to be. Now, me, I wouldn't last 5 seconds in a ring with a ticked-off bull. But Bob, he's got this look in his eye. Like he's ready to take on the world, one bull at a time. Bob, he hits the dusty road with a grin on his face and a song in his heart. Probably some Johnny Cash, knowing him. He's headed straight for the heart of Texas, where they say everything's bigger, even the trouble. Now Bob, he doesn't mind a little trouble. In fact, I think he kinda likes it. He rolls into town like a tumbleweed in a windstorm, his truck sputtering and coughing like it's seen better days. He finds himself a rodeo, one of those big ones with the announcers who talk like they got a mouthful of marbles. Bob, he walks right up to the organizer, tips his hat, which is a wonder, 'cause half the brim is missing, and says, "Howdy, folks. Name's Bob, and I'm here to be your new rodeo clown." Now, the rodeo folks, they take one look at Bob with his scraggly beard and overalls, and they figure he's either a lost cause or the funniest thing they've seen all week. Turns out, he's a little bit of both. They give him a shot, mostly because even rodeo organizers got a soft spot for a dreamer, even if that dreamer smells like a distillery exploded. Bob, he's got this natural charm, see? He's got a way about him that makes you want to root for him, even when he's about to do something completely idiotic. So there's Bob, in the middle of the ring. He's got on this oversized clown suit that looks like it was made for a man twice his size. He's got a red nose that's seen better days, and he's trying to wrangle a wig that looks like a family of squirrels built a nest on his head. The bull, a mean-looking critter with horns the size of Texas longhorns, snorts and paws the ground, ready to charge. Now, most folks would be scared out of their wits. But not Bob. He just grins, adjusts his hat, which promptly falls off, and starts doing this little jig that looks suspiciously like a drunken chicken trying to fly. The crowd, they're going wild. They're hooting and hollering, and Bob, he's eating it up. He's dodging the bull, tripping over his own feet, and generally making a fool of himself. But here's the thing. He's doing it with such gusto, such enthusiasm that you can't help but laugh along with him. After the show, Bob's surrounded by folks wanting to buy him a beer. Turns out, even though he nearly got trampled by a bull, he was a hit. He's making friends left and right, swapping stories and laughing like he's known these folks his whole life. That's just Bob for you. He could make friends with a fence post if you gave him enough time and a six-pack. After his rodeo adventures, Bob figures he's due for some city living. He packs up his truck, which is now holding together by duct tape and prayer, and points it towards the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas. Now, Las Vegas is about as far from Bob's usual stomping grounds as you can get, but that doesn't faze him one bit. He figures, if they got casinos, they gotta have cards. And if they got cards, well, Jack Bob's gonna try his hand at dealing. Now, Bob's idea of dealing cards is probably a little different than what they do in those fancy casinos. He learned how to play poker from his grandpappy, using bottle caps for chips and an old deck of cards missing half the hearts. But that don't stop Bob. He walks into one of those casinos, all bright lights and fancy carpets, looking like a raccoon that wandered into a jewelry store. He finds himself a blackjack table, pulls up a chair and says, "Deal me in, partner." Jack Bob's feeling lucky tonight. The other players, all dressed in their finest suits and sparkly dresses, take one look at Bob and figure he's either lost his mind or his way. Turns out, it might be a little bit of both, but they let him play, mostly because they're curious to see what this hillbilly's gonna do. Section 5, Dealing with Trouble, Dealing with Cards. Now Bob, he might not know much about fancy casino etiquette, but he knows cards. He's got this knack for counting cards, see? Not like those fancy mathematicians on TV, but he's got his own system. It involves a lot of finger tapping, head scratching, and mumbling under his breath, but it seems to work. He starts winning, much to the astonishment of the other players. He's raking in the chips, stacking them high like he's building a log cabin out of plastic. The casino staff, they're getting a little nervous. They don't like it when folks win, especially folks who look like they just walked out of the woods. Things come to a head when Bob wins a hand that would make a poker champion weep. The casino manager, a slick-haired fella with a permanent frown, comes over and accuses Bob of cheating. Now Bob, he ain't no cheat, and he takes offense to that. "Hold your horses, mister," he says, standing up. "Hill-Jack Bob don't cheat. I'm just that good." The other players, they're starting to rally around Bob. They've seen him play, and they know he's the real deal. They start giving the casino manager a piece of their mind, telling him to leave the poor guy alone. The manager, he backs down, grumbling something about hillbillies and beginner's luck. After his Vegas adventure, Bob figures he's had enough of the desert. He's heard stories about California, about the beaches, the sunshine, and the laid-back lifestyle. He figures if those California folks can surf, then Hill-Jack Bob can too. Now, Bob's never seen the ocean before, let alone a surfboard. But that don't deter him. He figures surfing can't be harder than riding a bull, right? He packs up his truck, which is now held together by duct tape, prayer, and a couple of bungee cords, and sets off for the Golden State. He rolls into a beach town just as the sun's setting, casting a golden glow over the waves. Bob steps out of his truck, takes a deep breath of that salty air, and smiles. Now this, he says, is living. He finds a surf shop run by a dude with more hair on his chin than Bob has on his whole body. The dude takes one look at Bob and his beat-up truck and says, "You here for the surf lessons, brah?" Bob just grins and says, "You know it, buddy. Hill-Jack Bob's gonna ride these here waves like a pro." The dude just shakes his head and chuckles. "All right, brah, let's get you outfitted." The next morning, Bob finds himself on the beach, looking about as out of place as a penguin in a chicken coop. He's wearing a wetsuit that's about 2 sizes too small, making him look like a sausage stuffed into a too tight casing. He's got a surfboard tucked under his arm, looking about as graceful as a bear carrying a log. The surf instructor, a tanned and toned Adonis with sun-bleached hair, is trying to teach Bob the basics of surfing. He's showing him how to paddle, how to pop up, how to balance. Bob's trying his best, but his idea of balance involves a lot of flailing arms and wobbly legs. "You gotta find your center, brah," the instructor says, demonstrating a perfect yoga pose on his surfboard. Bob just grunts and says, "My center's usually around the dinner table, son. But I reckon I can give this surfing thing a go." He paddles out into the waves, determined to conquer this whole surfing business. He catches a wave, pops up, and promptly wipes out, falling face first into the water. He comes up sputtering and coughing, his hair plastered to his face, looking like a drowned rat. "You all right, brah?" the instructor calls from the shore. Bob spits out a mouthful of salt water and grins. "Never better," he yells back. "This here surfing is something else." Now Bob, he might not be a natural-born surfer, but he's got grit. He spends the next few days falling off his surfboard, getting tumbled by waves, and swallowing enough salt water to pickle a whale. But he's having the time of his life. He makes friends with the local surfers, a motley crew of beach bums, hippies, and wannabe wave riders. They teach him the ways of the waves, how to read the ocean, and how to not get eaten by a shark, which apparently is a real concern in California. One day, Bob's out surfing when he sees a group of kids getting pulled out by a rip current. Without thinking twice, he paddles over, throws the kids onto his surfboard, and pushes them back towards shore. He gets caught in the current himself, but he manages to fight his way back to the beach, exhausted but exhilarated. The kids' parents are eternally grateful, hailing Bob as a hero. The local news picks up the story, and suddenly, Hill-Jack Bob is a local celebrity. He's getting free drinks at the bars, free surf lessons, and even a few date offers, though he politely declines, saying he's spoken for by a 6-pack of beer in his fridge. Hill-Jack Bob's American adventure eventually comes to an end, but not before he's ridden bulls, dealt blackjack, surfed the Pacific, and made friends everywhere he went. He might not have fit in with the cowboys, the high rollers, or the surfers, but that was the beauty of it. Bob, he didn't need to fit in. He was comfortable in his own skin, overalls and all. He proved that you don't need fancy clothes, a fat wallet, or even a lick of common sense to have an adventure. All you need is a little bit of grit, a whole lot of heart, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. Hilljack Bob, he might be a character, but he's a reminder that sometimes it's the most unlikely folks who teach us the most valuable lessons. Lessons about friendship, about kindness, and about the importance of always, always betting on yourself. Even if you smell like cheap beer and campfire.